Great to have you with us. Happy holidays to you.
Hey, Steve, how are you?
I'm doing well. Thanks for asking. Your thoughts on in your research, your thoughts on the Joe Moorhead hire?
On paper, it looks like a terrific hire. He's been very impressive at Fordham. The numbers offensively speak for themselves. Really, as we all know by now, really turned around the Fordham program. On first blush, as I wrote in my column, it looks like a home run. Only time will tell if that's the case. And but on the surface, it looks like a terrific hire.
And it's going to come down, obviously, to making whatever personnel he has works. I mean, that's what it comes down to. I'm not so sure at times people talk enough about personnel and execution. They talk mostly about schemes.
Yeah, it's a good point. And what he did at Fordham, with implementing the run-pass balance. I know, they had running backs who had terrific years and quarterbacks who had terrific years. I think that's what impresses me. And the other thing that impresses me too, Steve, and this is getting away from play calling and execution and all that, is that the Fordham athletic director and the Fordham president went out of their way to praise him after Joe decided to leave Fordham for Penn State. That doesn't, as you know, that doesn't always happen.
No.
And for them to, what they've written and what they've said publicly, it tells you that they think very highly of Joe Moorhead.
And that speaks a lot, too. And I think for him professionally, just on the outside looking in, FCS head coach, offensive coordinator, FBS major conference. Also, I know his family was living in Greenwich, Connecticut. I mean, that's a hard commute back and forth. I think probably getting his family within a couple of miles of work is not going to hurt him too much either.
No. But I mean, I don't. I'm looking forward to Friday when we get a chance to talk to at least James Franklin, hopefully Joe Moorhead, and find out how many people James talked to, and how did he have Joe in mind when he made the decision to let go of John Donovan. All those things, that'll be interesting to find out on Friday. But I'm going to guess that James had probably a short list. How many's on that list, I don't know, but had a short list of people, and I'm going to guess that he got one of his top people on that list.
Right. When you go into these bowl media days, what are you looking for, if anything, or just letting it happen? Now, obviously, with Joe Moorhead, there's a purpose there, but anything else?
Well, I think if Joe's there, obviously that's a whole different thing, and that's unique. That's, like you said, that's a unique situation. Sometimes what I've found over the years is that once coaches and players have had a chance to digest a season and get away for it for a couple of weeks, they may have a little bit of different perspective on certain things than they did during the week-to-week grind. And that's one thing I do look forward to. And they're also usually a little they're a little more relaxed. It's a little bit better environment to ask questions rather than immediately after a game or during the week. During week of midweek when they're in the middle of classes and preparation for the next game. So I look to that and see if anybody's perspective on things changes.
How often have you had a chance to talk with Carl Nassib?
Not as much as I would like.
Right.
But what would indicate the main, the one thing that I will take with me is the conversation we had with him in the spring and how impressive he was, because I'd never spoken to him before. I don't know how many people had before that day, and how impressive he was and how good he was. He seemed very at ease. And when he was done, he asked a couple of us, "How did I do?" Now that doesn't happen. You don't get that.
Right, you don't.
From 99% of the players. How did I do in that? Was I okay? And he was terrific. And I know he was a little bashful in big settings. With whether it was post game or not. But he's an impressive young man. There's no doubt about it. Whether he has a long and successful career in the NFL or not, it doesn't matter to me. I mean, he's going to be a success.
Right. Because obviously, even off the field, he's on track to get his degree in biology.
Oh, yeah.
Pre-med.
Yeah, plans to become a pediatrician. It's very, very impressive. And the thing that strikes me is that, according to his teammates, he's so different between the lines as he is off the field, and that's good. But off the field, he seems very very gentle, very reserved. But once he gets between the lines, as we all know, you could see how the intensity dialed up 100-fold.
That was Sean Lee.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Sean Lee. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Oh.
I mean, Sean Lee as soon as on the left side of the blue line, wow. It would give you the shirt off his back. Now, go to the other side of the blue line, different personality.
Yeah, that's a good comparison, Steve, because Sean Lee, you couldn't help but like him, when you sat down with him and talked to him. But I wouldn't want to play opposite him in football. No way.
There are, over the years that you've covered, Rich, there have been some really good stories. Some are great football stories. Some are great human interest stories. How do you look at the Nassib story as being one of those stories?
It's up there. I'd have to sit down and think of a lot, since 1989 for the Reading Eagle, all the stories that I've written and I'm aware of, but it's got to be in the top 5 or 10. I mean, at least the top 5, I would think, of just, it really came out of nowhere. I mean, this season came out we're not at practice every day. We're not in the weight room every day. We don't know all these things. But for somebody to walk on the team at Penn State as a preferred walk-on and emerge as the best defensive end in the country without having started a game before this year, that's truly remarkable. Truly remarkable. It's been a fun story to cover. Obviously he's been fun to watch. And one of my colleagues on the beat brought up a good point. Carl Nassib doesn't get hurt early in the fourth quarter at Northwestern. Who knows what might have happened in the last few minutes.
Right.
So it's a really good story, and I'm happy for him. And I know some people, somebody who used to work at Malvern Prep and who knows the family, and they tell me that the family couldn't be better people.
Right. Years ago, you wrote a book, Stadium Stories. Colorful Tales of the Blue and White.
You might be the only one who knows that.
Have you thought about now writing another book, considering there's been so much mileage over the last 12 years and so many different things have happened?
Well, I was approached about that, and decided I guess they wanted a certain format. Lou Prado will tell you this. Maybe it's easier for him, but writing a book is hard work.
Yes, it is.
And I may do it when I'm done, when I'm done covering Penn State or retiring or something like that. I just don't have the time to do that right now. And that was not a long book, but it's very very involved. Yeah. And with covering 2 other beats, small college basketball and high school baseball, it's impossible for me to do that right now. But there's great stories. I mean, my gosh, since 2003, there's a lot to tell. Right. I mean, I could just write you could write volumes on just what's happened to Penn State football since then. Right,
exactly. And I was thinking about that because obviously you have a depth of perspective that crosses over decades. Mm-hmm. That then puts the last, maybe 12 years or so into perspective. But in the age of computers, have you saved a lot?
Oh, yeah. I've saved too much. I've saved, I have a lot. Oh yeah, I have a lot saved. Yeah, I do. And I have stuff going back to the early '90s. I mean stuff. I mean interviews and
Right.
hard copy stuff. Obviously, some people know this that I covered Kerry Collins in high school and obviously at Penn State, and I have like a whole big file folder full of things just from him that if I ever, he would be a big part of any book that I would write about Penn State.
Right. Oh, yeah, of course. Well, that's one that goes from recruitment right through a professional career.
Yeah. I mean, I covered him as a sophomore right-hander for the Wilson High School baseball team, and he was getting looks by pro baseball scouts then. So, yeah, it'd be interesting, Steve. How about you? Are you, you thinking about something like that?
Rich, I've had a number of people ask me whether I will or not. Maybe someday.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah.
That's under the maybe someday.
Yeah.
It's no consideration right now. I think sometimes I want to really know what he thinks. It's like, okay, yeah, sure you do. But maybe someday.
Yeah.
I'll let you ghostwrite it.
So. Yeah, thanks. but I that's why I admire somebody like Lou.
Oh.
I mean, Lou turns out books like in his sleep he could turn out one a year.
Oh yeah.
And they're all really interesting too. That's what I give him a lot of credit. I don't think I could do that. I don't know how even if I'm retired, I don't think I could do that. But I that's why I admire somebody like him.
Yeah, no, he turns out stuff, and now you're right. And when he turns it out, you read it.
Oh,
I
yeah.
like it. It's really good. Absolutely. The bowl game is interesting in that it's the SEC, so they just move parts around. Kirby Smart's now the head coach at Georgia. Yeah. Pruitt leaves Georgia to take Smart's old job at Alabama. Brian Schottenheimer's out as the offensive coordinator. What does that do to a bowl game to you?
Well, I think and I'm not trying to be funny here, but I think another Georgia coach announced today that he's not going to be with them for the bowl game, and I'm wondering how many that they're down to. They might be down to about five.
Probably because they played a bowl game years ago.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe I think this was when they were transitioning to Richt.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I guess they did the thing with GAs for the most part, and they won.
Yeah. I really, I'd have to talk to somebody who's been through that, but I gotta think it's gotta be disconcerting for the kids on the team. Unless they're looking at it like, hey, we're trying to impress the new coach, and that could be too. You can look at it two ways. It could be disconcerting, but it can also be used as motivation and incentive. You have a new coach coming in, and we want to impress him. But it just seems like, just seems like there's a coach leaving every day almost.
Right, and not only that, but Floyd, the outside linebacker, is really, really good. He's
Mm-hmm.
already announced that this is his last game. He's done. He's out. So he's going to the NFL. From the outside looking in, and I'll give you an example of a guy, John Chavis.
Mm-hmm.
John Chavis is considered to be an outstanding defensive coordinator.
Sure.
And he's been the coordinator against Penn State when he was at Tennessee.
Yep.
He was the coordinator against Penn State when he was at LSU.
LSU, yep.
Now he's at Texas A&M. What is it about, from the outside looking in, of the, quote, culture of the SEC?
You mean guys jumping from one?
Oh, they jump from job to job within the conference where you just don't see that happen in the Big Ten.
No. It's probably, follow the money. They're probably, they're probably being outbid. It's probably a bidding war, and you notice, I don't know what Ohio State did to try to keep their, whether it was Tom Herman or Chris Ash,
right.
But they left for head coaching jobs. I don't know. It's a good question. I don't know what it is, but I'm sure they're getting a nice bump in salary, and right. Don't we all wish we could get a nice bump in salary? It'd be nice, but why they stay in the SEC. I don't have an answer for that, Steve. I really don't know.
It's like they make what you would say to yourself as a parallel move. So obviously, there's got to be a lot more money involved.
It has to be, yeah.
It's the only reason to do it. But they go, I'm going to be the coordinator here. I'm going to be the coordinator here. I mean, they're not leaving to be head coaches. Now,
well, there also could be, we don't know what goes on. We know about the Georgia situation, with Pruitt and Rick. There was a lot because that became public. There was a lot of tension,
right,
and maybe even pretty a split. And maybe that's why these guys leave. Hey, they run into, they're working with somebody. Hey, after 2 or 3 years, they realize, hey, this isn't working. I'm out of here. Right. I don't know. Maybe every case is different, but why? Why they stick around in the SEC? That I don't know. I don't know. I don't have an answer to that.
Right. Well, tight ends coach and co-special teams coordinator John Lilly is going to be the guy that will call the offense.
Yeah.
And the outside linebacking coach Kevin Shearer, as expected. I think everybody expected him. He'll be the guy calling the defense. So.
Yeah. And it'll be interesting. I mean, is it a fresh look at things, or I don't know. You brought up something interesting that they won a game 15 years ago, a bowl game, and with a revamped staff, or with a staff that was pretty much split before the bowl game. So we'll see. But I think this is a good opportunity for Penn State. To beat a quality team, 9-3 team from the SEC. It could really change the vibe of the season, change what everybody thinks about the season. Maybe I'm wrong, but I think it can if Penn State could come away with the win.
Rich, it is always a pleasure. Great to hear you, my friend.
Hey, anytime, Steve. Thank you very much.
Rich Scarcella.